As someone who's listened to a lot of different types of music, as well as had many discussions with a lot of different types of people about it, I am often really surprised on the different perspectives people can have on certain musical pieces. While I think there is certain music that everyone would agree is technically impressive and sounds good, I find harmony to be a much more rare exception. I recently watched a video on YouTube titled TikTok and Dissonance Does Not Mix. In this video, he talked about a girl who made a TikTok harmonizing with a cover of As the World Gives In.
Girl, it's you that I lie with as the
Apparently, the harmony in this TikTok was so dissonant that it caused a lot of controversy. It went beyond more than people just arguing whether it sounds good or not. Though there was some people arguing that it just sounds bad, while others were trying to explain the dissonance. Regardless, it seems that this caused so much of a stir that the girl even got harassed, which is a little bit extreme. Well, not even a little bit. It is just beyond extreme. But our relationship with harmony changes throughout all of history. You can look back at certain parts of history and see that harmony used to be much more experimental. Now, the harmony in this TikTok can be really viewed as a C minor major seventh add sharp 9, which consists of the notes C, E flat, G, B, E. Now, if we analyze this harmony, we can see it really fits into the harmonic minor scale, specifically the 6th mode, the Lydian sharp 2. If you don't know what modes are, you can essentially view them as a scale, and each mode is represented by a chord, and each mode has its own distinct personality. Now, the harmonic minor parent scale itself is already a pretty dissonant and exotic sounding scale. And obviously, the modes within it are not going to be much less dissonant. But the harmonic minor scale has been used a ton within classical music. I don't know if it's just upholding Eurocentric standards of harmony or people's reaction to much more dissonant harmony, a reflection of our generation. Now, obviously, this is just talking specifically about more popular music. You can, of course, find more dissonant sounding harmonies in jazz, classical, and maybe even rock and metal in these modern times. But I would argue that even the diminished scale or a half diminished chord or harmony, a lot of people would probably say that sounds bad too. And that falls right into diatonic harmony that we hear in pretty much every song. It's just every song avoids the 7th, the diminished. And that's kind of what I want to explore. Why is it that our current generation avoids more of the dissonant? It's gotten to a point where people even avoid the flat 7th in most modern music. Now, maybe because that sounds too classical for some people, but I think it does speak volumes. I know Rick Beato talked about why modern music is so boring in one of his live streams. And I personally disagree, but also agree. In terms of musical composition, he's right. In today's more modern music, the compositions are less and less complex, harmonically, and I would even argue melodically as well. Of course, this depends on genre, but overall, more modern music seems to be going less and less complex in terms of musical composition. So while I agree with him on that point, I do think it's because music is evolving in a different way than I think most of us expected. And it's been going this way for a while now. Music seems to be going towards a direction where things are much more cinematic. While having a great melody is still important, the way that the musical piece conveys emotion in a very theatrical way seems much more important. It seems to be less about creating these very complex musical compositions and more about creating a vibe, an image, a cinematic story to attach to. With all that being said, I do think there still needs to be a really big musical revolution. And I don't think that well written musical compositions are a thing of the past. Music innovation has just been on an upward trend that a lot of musicians were able to just skip by with some basic composition. But I think we're hitting a point of diminishing returns in that if we can't keep innovating in the production side of things to hold the listener's attention, then music will eventually just stagnate. Musicians who understand music theory and the basics of composing still have a major advantage over those who don't. I believe trying to fight against the market is a losing battle that is not worth trying to fight. It's very clear that people want a certain type of music, and there are always going to be people who are going to supply it regardless if they're skilled or not. We can't force people to broaden their musical tastes and accept certain parts of harmony. The only thing we can really do is create more competitive pieces of music that utilize these harmonies, and I believe being the change that we want to see in the world.